So I have recently understood I'm autistic, and one of the reason why, as I described earlier, well, one of the main reason I was not able to identify as autistic before is that the portrayal, description, and treatment of what autism is entirely based on what the so-called normal population, the neurotypical people, see as us. And it's been based on ignoring entirely what autistic people have been saying and telling and feeling all over again. And I already discussed more in detail how this false consciousness theory, this psychological framework, not just for autism but in general for everything, that the psychologist is this mastermind who is there on a pedestal and looking down at the client and having to interpret what they think and feel because the client is too stupid to know what they think and feel themselves. So they need the psychologist to dictate what they're saying, and if the patient actually disagrees with that, there is a lot of theories on how to dismiss that, and basically to they may turn the patient role into patting the shoulder of the psychologist and being there in you know making the psychologist feel good about how influential and powerful and awesome and praised he is by his peers, as opposed to actually doing anything valuable. And not necessarily that any psychologist does anything that is not valuable, obviously, but that's the background theory which a lot of psychology is based on. So the problem with that is I found out that the reason I couldn't identify as an autistic person was that when I was hearing non-autistic people telling what autism is, I was seeing a description which I felt like was like it's like has like some vague resemblance, but overall it's just that's just not me. Okay, and then and I've never actually, because of this, like I've never really questioned this thought, which is my fault because I already know even before knowing this about relevant to autism specifically. I already knew that false consciousness was such a big problem in psychology, but then it just turns out that I've because of this I've never really bothered to hear the perspective of autistic people themselves, because I kind of give it for a given that, oh, when psychologists are discussing autistic people, they have worked with autistic people, they have listened to autistic people, and they know what they're talking about. And it turns out to not be the case at all. And so I found this complete clash between what autistic people were telling that they think and say and feel, and what the neurotypical lecturers and teachers and professors have been telling about what an autistic person is like. And I already discussed this process, the discovery, this was false consciousness problem in psychology earlier, but now I kind of want to do a thing, which is like to actually reverse the script, and this is not coming from me originally. I've when I was binging contest content related to autism after discovering this, I found a few people hinting explicitly or more often implicitly at this issue, which is things actually backwards, and is autistic people are autistic people are generally described as being very rigid in their thinking, just obsessive about having this in a specific way, about having just being just kind of weird and kind of selfish in a way, like not really caring about what other people think and say in a kind of rude sort of way, kind of dismissive sort of way, and and that's kind of the whole impression that is out there about autistic people, which is autism is described as a disorder, particularly in social skills. So it's it's already there. It's pathologized. So it's a disorder, something that we can help you to heal from eventually, and which, because of this disorder, you just have this extreme disabling mental rigidity and this disabling inability to understand the other person's perspective, and this inability to feel recognize social clues and what other people are feeling, and blah blah blah, all this stereotypical portrait of what an autistic person is like. And for me it was hard because I was like, I cannot, uh, I don't see myself in this at all. And for example, I thought that, okay, this is so completely not relatable because I am actually someone who considers himself as being extremely cognitively, behaviorally, socially flexible. I've traveled in a lot of countries. I lived in four different countries, two of which was just, oh, I packed my bag and went there and built a life there. And I've adapted to all sort of different social contexts. I've built up a company working with people in a foreign country where I didn't speak the language at first. And overall, I'm a person who is very high in agreeableness. I quite a pleaser, particularly with people, and not in general, but with people I who are close to me, who I love. I'm quite focused on how can I be, what can I do for them, as opposed to being very selfish and self-centered. If you take my personality assessment, I'm extremely high on agreeableness. I am extremely high in creativity. I wrote tons of books. I've been doing paintings, drawings. I'm someone who is extremely creative. So I was like, it's like I'm the exact opposite of an autistic person. I'm not rigid at all in my thinking. I'm actually extremely flexible. I'm extremely creative. I have absolutely no problem, to try to think differently, to try to see, adapt to the fact, oh, this person is actually thinking in a different way, so I can adapt to that instead of, just repeating what I'm used to. So I felt like, oh, I'm very adaptable, very flexible, very unselfish, and hence I can't really be this stereotype of rigid robot, don't understand feeling, have the social ability of a 5-year-old child, need to be told how to follow social clue because I'm completely helpless. I cannot do anything. I just repeat my own things. I am so weird. I make repetitive noise and weird behavior. And please help me because otherwise I am completely lost. And you just need to really adapt to all my these so high needs because I'm just lost without you and I need to guide you every step of my life. So just I can do any basic thing. Please help me. Stereotype of autistic person. So what actually led me to the understanding I am autistic was finding myself, to my surprise, described like that by someone very close and very important for me. So this helped me actually to the discovery, which I described already elsewhere, that I am in fact autistic, and that in fact there is this clash. It's not just me being weird, it's just the average experience of the autistic person is actually this clash between the way other people describe them and what they are actually saying and feeling. So it came to my mind through listening to actually to autistic people, something that seems weird, but actually when you look at data and when you look at our life experiences, is completely on spot. And the thing is, it's not us who are rigid, unadaptive, need to have things specifically in a certain way, and very self-centered in having things precisely in a way, otherwise we'll have a meltdown. It's actually the neurotypicals. And I realized that all these things I had, oh, but I'm not rigid. I am very creative. I write books. Autistic people don't understand the context of the social. And I mean, I write books. I imagine different characters interacting in different ways. And then, like, if I don't understand how people think and feel, and I'm just a robot who is completely clueless, how in the world can I write book? And suddenly, my book are not necessarily even shitty either. I had people read my books and I say, okay, they're cool. So it's like I can describe how people act. So it's not like, again, so I can't be autistic because I'm not that clueless 5-year-old child level robot who doesn't have a clue and needs the neurotypicals to guide me and help me like a puppet. So I can't be autistic, and it turns out this is what all autistic people are actually saying. So the thing is, when we think of it, it is actually the opposite, that the neurotypical need a script, and they have very fixed mindset, and they are very rigid in following certain rules, and say, well, wait a second, this is how we describe the autistic people, so that's completely insane. And actually it isn't. So one of the things that all autistic people do, nearly all, statistic tells that 94% of autistic people do is something called masking. And it basically means masking as in the sense of hiding your neurodivergent traits, your autistic traits, to appear normal. And all we learn through life most of the time is you are rewarded for the more normal, the more you can pass as a neurotypical, the more normal you are, the more rewarded you are. So the thing is, it actually turns out that 94% of autistic people do this. Second thing is, masking is actually extremely damaging. It has a lot of long-term, demonstrated by research, long-term negative detrimental consequences on the mental health of autistic people. And one of the things we do this masking is basically to follow up the script. Because and again, this comes natural to the neurotypical person, but it's not like we can't pick it on. It's not like we can't do it. Particularly some people like myself who are high masking, or what used to be called high functional autistic individual. We can hide well. We can mask well. So it's not necessarily the thing. And of course, some autistic people do have issues in masking well, but that's kind of beyond the point. The thing is that there is a need to follow a script, and the script doesn't come from the autistic people. The script comes from the neurotypical ones. Because what goes up in an autistic mind is there is a lot of things that could be interesting. For instance, mine is I'm a writer, so I can have any given moment of time, there can be, and again, this is flexibility of thinking, creativity, which is I could have some very novel idea in my mind right now when we're having a conversation, and then what I do as a high masking autistic person is, okay, wait a second, I have this new idea. Let me try to cancel it out because I'm in a conversation with a neurotypical person, and therefore I need to pay attention to where they look, in which way I make eye contact, in which way I smile, in which way I use my inflection of voice, so this neurotypical person doesn't feel I'm too weird, doesn't feel too threatened by me being not normal. So I actually need to put cognitive effort in that and say, okay, maybe it's me. I'm weird even as an autistic person, and it turns out this is all what all autistic people are doing all the time. So I was looking this. Talking to this girl actually, and she who is autistic, and says 70% of her mental energy all the time goes into uh, planning the script and going on with this thing that neurotypicals just do. So this will, okay, this is the part when you make some remark about the weather. This is the part where you smile at this person joke. This is the person where you make eye contact in this way. This is the time you make the eye contact in this way. This is the time you get closer. This is the time you add a joke, and this is the time they laugh, and this is the time after they ended up laughing. And if at any time you've been neurodivergent, you have diverged, you have stepped away from the script, you'll immediately get, oh my god, what's wrong with you? And again, I totally relate to the experience of this girl, because this is well, before knowing I was autistic, was exactly what I felt. 30/70 was this my percentage that I had in my head. It was like, okay, 30% is kind of the acceptable social level of myself, and it's like all the rest that is coming, it is sort of the tip of the iceberg, and everything else that is below the iceberg is like 70% of your mental energy. Use it on not letting that show out, because that's like the most horrible thing that life has told you you can do in life ever. Like, okay, we could go be out there and robbing and raping and murdering people, and that's kind of okay, that's not too good, but you get a pass. But god forbid, don't think something new and original, because that's like where we completely freak out. And that's like the experience that we autistic people are having all the time. And you say, well, you're not normal, you're the weird ones. Okay, fair enough. But the thing is, which one is the one who has a script in their mind and freaks out when the script fails? And it says, and I realize, hey, this makes perfect sense. It's actually, and again, it's actually normal. If we look at the statistics, there is a strong link between autism and creativity, which again shows that how in the world is stereotype, oh, autistic people are so rigid, so they just can't only do things in one specific way, and they require, if we don't let them do, they just need to be adapted to so much. And it's like, wait a second, how does this fit with the fact that when we test how creative we are, we actually turns out we are more creative, we are more cognitively flexible than the neurotypical people. And when we actually listen to autistic people, I was thinking again, this experience of how in the world can I be autistic, which is described as someone who has so the social impairment and not being capable to mix into, understanding the social cues to get into a different context. When I'm, oh, wait a second, I'm somebody who is been living in different countries, moving to different countries, creating myself a job in different countries, while talking to people, learning, where can I find a place to rent to have my activity, how can I find to get people come to my activity and like my activity. So it's like I've been doing social work in a foreign country. How in the world does this fit this stereotype of oh, you're so weird and fixated and robotic and a puppet, and turns out that autistic people who are described like that have been saying the exact same thing. And I say, like, well, we actually feel we are better than the neurotypicals at adapting to a different context, which again makes perfect sense because what's normal in a context is actually different everywhere. So one thing that anthropologists have actually learned is that the original way they had to study culture is complete bogus, because they would go to a place and study, oh, we are going to study the culture of this island, and that they realize that actually doesn't make any sense, because the way to study culture is to recognize that the greatest difference is the so-called inner layers of difference within a culture, which means any social setting is actually very, very different. And so if you are, say, within the same country, within the same town, within the same language, but you are, say, an upper class priest as opposed to a truck driver, even if you are very close, in the same country, you speak the same language, your social cues will actually be entirely different. And what autistic people have been telling all along is that, like, you know, uh, it's not like we just are robots and puppets and we don't understand anything. It's just that we are quite flexible and creative. So it's not like we don't really care that much about repeating and imitating what other people do. So we will have that, okay, if people in my class are doing something, I don't really feel I need to imitate them to fit in, and that's when the people in the class will be like, "Oh, you're so weird. What's wrong with you?" And we throw things at you, and because that's like such a horrible thing to do, apparently. But that what we experience is that, okay, this is actually kind of beneficial, because if I suddenly find myself in a different country, in a completely different class, in a completely different social context, I don't have such a problem, because I don't have this experience that neurotypical people have of, oh, things must to be done in a certain way. Food must be given at this specific time. Handshake or greeting can be a handshake, or it can be a bowing. And if I'm used to that, and now adapting to that is extremely difficult. And you'll have that a lot of autistic people, I've heard, actually have this experience of, I don't really have problems adapting to that, because to me, I don't have this sense. So this is in my culture. It's so important that we handshake, and therefore now I'm finding somebody who wants me to bow, and it's like, oh my goodness, how am I going to adapt to that? It's just kind of the same thing, and that makes it easy to adapt. And apparently, this is not just me being weird, which is what I thought. It's like, okay, I have some autistic traits, but this just doesn't represent me. It's just, I guess I'm just too weird for them as well. And it turns out, oh, this is what autistic people think all along. And so the thing is, it's actually kind of sad when once you come to realize that for all my life, roughly 70% of my mental energy has been simply into, oh, what can I do to make the neurotypical people around me not feel uncomfortable and threatened if I do something in a way which is slightly different? This has been true with my family, with my teachers, therapists. It's all the same thing over and over. And apparently I was just, okay, I'm weird, but it turns out 94% of autistic people do this, and it takes an extreme toll in their energy. It causes long-term damage to their mental health, and all they are told by neurotypicals, including doctors, including the people who are supposed to love them, including teachers, is, oh, it's just that you are failing at being normal enough, and you are missing one cue and one something. If you are just trying all the time to just imitate what we say, if there is something where you don't do the things exactly the way we do, we'll just freak out and be like so scared and so disappointed and so disgusted that you're just going to just find a way to change yourself. And it's like, okay, fine, we are actually doing that, but we are the one who are rigid. That's kind of weird. So I I am weird. I am autistic. I don't have a particular sense of social reward, which is basically what it apparently it means to be autistic. It's not like I'm clueless. It's not like I'm a robot. It's not like I'm a puppet. It's not like I don't have feeling. It's not like but you're not. If you are not normal, if you don't follow the rules, then what happens? Can we just go all run around the city without any clothes at all just to show by myself? And I'm like, no, I don't want to run around the city without clothes to show, oh, I can be myself, love me for who I am. I am a person who is sensible, but maybe I just have a few things which sometimes I feel are interesting to share. Go figure. And apparently that's too much to take for the neurotypical mind to handle. And it's like when I was at school as well, it was all the time, oh, you just have to shut up and repeat what we said. This is the program. This is the lines that the teacher is going to ask you. This is the line you are going to say in response. And this is, if you do this, we are going to reward you by good grades. And I had the best grades, so I had no problems in doing that. It just felt okay. How comes that the whole school system, which I felt betrayed because I'm so excited about learning. So I am going to school, that's the place where we learn. So there's going to be a lot of learning, and then I find out that there really isn't much learning. It is just about repeat this, and God forbid you find something interesting to connect to this and something to discuss about this, because that's not in the program, that's not how we do things. Please, can you try to be more normal, because I feel so threatened by you. As a teacher, I feel so threatened by you telling something that's not actually in the program. So can you just shut up and try to be normal, because I'm so scared now of this. Okay, whatever. And in therapy setting, it's actually the same thing. All we teach autistic people is this. We blame them for not complying. We do this social skill training by showing them, this is the way you can imitate others, so we don't melt down. And then when you say, okay, yeah, I'm actually high masking autistic, I'm highly functional, I am doing that, but that's actually making me feel absolutely terrible, and I'm having this and this long-term mental health outcome, which I'm coming to therapy to need your help with. What the therapist says, oh my goodness, this is not what you are supposed to say, this is not what you are supposed to feel. What you are supposed to say, thank you, is either, thank you, I feel so better now that people are rewarding for being normal, or yeah, I feel so shitty about myself because I'm still not able to be normal and nobody's going to like me. And then it's like, oh yeah, see, you're still failing to get my good advice, and that's your own problem. So that's about the script that you have to do. And if you are, oh my goodness, you're so stubborn, what are you saying? That's not what you're supposed to do. And I say, God forbid I came to therapy to actually have somebody maybe listening to me, instead of having somebody that my job as a patient is actually to make you feel good about your role as a healer, and just telling you, you are so awesome, you made me feel so better, thank you, and I smile to you and you feel so happy about yourself. And if you are a teacher, same thing. Okay, here is the repetition of what you want me to say, and here is how I'm praising you for how much of a great teacher you are, and here is how you praise me back. And all all our social existence is basically the toll and the effort of not having the neurotypicals freak out over, God forbid I hear something that's new and original and not what the repetition 974,374 of the same thing. And we are the one who are so fixated, so repetitive, so unflexible. Okay, that's kind of peculiar. And this whole portrayal of, okay, let's take, and he's not official autistic, but Sheldon Cooper from the Big Bang Theory, which is, again, I'm not using it as an example because it's not official autistic, but it's like everybody knows he's autistic. So okay, and he's actually not very liked in the autistic community because I think, yeah, they're saying it's stereotypical. It's like very bad representation. It's just like a joke, basically a joke of what people, how to make fun at autistic people as opposed to what autistic people are. But let's take him as the annoying Sheldon he is, and he has like this fixation that he has that one spot on the couch which is his, and that's the butt of the joke there, and all the neurotypicals be like, oh, let's laugh at poor Sheldon, how fixated he is on having his spot, and this is so funny and this is so weird, and like I mean, I do like the show actually. It is kind of funny. It's caricatural. It's just a character which is there like as a plot device in the comic release. Anyway, I don't feel offended by it. But the thing is, I never actually struck me as someone who is that difficult. I mean, it's like, okay, this person is really keen on having that spot on the couch. And it's like, okay, it's kind of funny, it's kind of weird. Let's have him the spot on the couch. What's the big deal? And opposed to the neurotypical who will be like, oh, you need to make eye contact in a specific way. You have to have a specific inflection of tone. You need to say a certain specific things, and you progress from the weather, and then you talk about this about a joke which is a little bit more personal, and here you show a little bit of vulnerability. Then you go back to something more casual, and it's like, okay, you have like dozens of scripts in your mind, and then Mr. Sheldon Cooper's come up. Well, the one thing I like is, to not have somebody sitting in my spot on the couch and you're like, oh my goodness, this is so difficult to comply. Do you want our whole existence to be like to accommodate your needs? And like, okay, doesn't feel that way to me. And then they'll be like, oh, because you're artistic, so you relate. I don't relate to Sheldon. I don't like trains. I don't have my spot on the couch. But I'm just saying that if some, and I am not going to match Sheldon in real life because it's a caricature. It's not a realistic character. Nobody's going to meet Sheldon Cooper. It's just that even as a caricature of a character who is the stereotype of the bad autistic person who is extremely annoying and extremely complicated, he's actually not even close as complicated as anybody I meet regularly in their life. It's just that they don't realize they're following this very rigid script, and you have to have things your specific way. And yes, Sheldon also has his script about having this very specific spot on the couch, but that's like one thing as opposed to my whole existence, my whole life as an autistic person. Most of my mental energy in every social interaction I ever had in my life has been, oh, how can I accommodate to the very specific restricted set of rules which is required in this neurotypical interaction. So, and when I do realize that, when there has been something that actually mattered to me, which again was not, oh, but I'm so different and I will just run naked around the places like an idiot to just show how different I am because I'm so weird and I'm an autistic, because that's what the autistic people are like. So instead of that, it's just been met with extreme rejection. So it could be have been, some things about these things matters to me in a relationship to feel loved, and maybe just to say something, some particular things. Which just that one thing happens to matter to me a lot, and it's like, okay, it's just one thing, as opposed to the whole dating scene rules, which are like it's immense. So, okay, this is the time when you say this. This is the time when you touch. This is the time where you make eye contact. And it's like it always felt when I was dating. okay, I it's the choice is you either follow this immense list of rules by the letter, or you are rejected. That's always been my experience. So it's like all the time is okay, do this, do that. It is scripted. It's an insane amount of rule, and I've actually never had a problem with that. It's just okay, if this is what the other person like, it's fine. Can I please have like this one thing in return? Oh my god, you're so weird, you're so non neurotypical, that we are going to freak out so much. And it's like, okay, I've had, I've been bullied, I've been abused, I had things thrown at me, I had people telling me I should kill myself, I had people telling me I should die off, I had people threaten me of the ways they are going to kill me, I had people telling me the ways they are going to hire somebody to kill me, I had people call me names, I had people tell me all sort of horrible things, and I've been like, okay, I can adapt to that, I can handle that. And then there comes the bad autistic person who happens to maybe have, a quirk with the hands, and there's a repetitive gesture of the hand, which I don't have, but some autistic people may have. And I hope I'm not stereotyping too much, because it's not my, I don't do this. I'm just trying to say, okay, this sort of repetitive behavior that the autistic person may have and maybe just doing. And I'm like, and suddenly that's like a problem. So it's like, okay, if I can, I can tolerate being bullied, being told to die off, being told to kill myself. I can manage that. But you are too threatened by somebody making this gesture, and you see somebody making a weird movement and you freak out so much that you expect them, their whole existence, to be about how they can make you comfortable, and god forbid they have something that actually really matters to them, because if you have to adapt to them, that will be like so absolutely impossible for you to meet. And we are the one who are fixed and rigid. Okay, that's a peculiar perspective, at least I'd say. So anyway, I think this was worth saying, and it's not something to blame neurotypical people for. It's not something to create a battle. Oh, you are the bad one. No, you are the bad one. It's just about creating a conversation, but maybe a conversation that's more based on a solid background, and acknowledging that in reality it's actually the neurotypical people who are quite inflexible in their thinking, and autistic people are doing what they can to meet their fixations, but maybe it needs to be a little bit you know a, a, a cooperation, a talk that goes both ways, instead of this unilateral conversation which autistic peoples have experienced so far. Again, I feel it absolutely horrifying that 94% of autistic people are estimated to be masking, which means basically spend a significant amount of their mental energy at the cost of their own mental health, and facing severe mental health consequences just to um, adapt and follow the demands of the rigid scripts in neurotypical society. And then what they are told is, oh, you're just so inflexible, you're just so rigid, you're just so selfish, you just don't get it. And what's that going to do to them? How is that even going to help them to fit in? How is that going to even, not having them to quit up entirely on having friends? How is that going to not even actually make them behave worse because they just get so overwhelmed that they melt down, and then maybe they eventually start to actually behave badly, and maybe they just get in fact so fixated by something, because if it's something that you have felt like you wanted to say your entire life, and you have been always been told to shut up or silence or interrupted, which is the experience autistic people have been having all along. And when you always are silent, that's exactly when it becomes so important, and you become so repetitive in saying, hey, these things really matter to me. I am trying to meet you up in the middle. I'm trying to adapt to everything you're saying. I'm ruining my mental health for you to adapt to your demands. I am using most of my mental energy to adapt to your demands. But this one thing really matters to me. Could you please meet me in the middle and adapt on this one? And then we are met by the neurotypicals with, oh my goodness, you're so needy and you're so demanding. I don't really have the mental energy to just constantly feed into your fixations and thing. And okay, what do you say? Well, thank you very much, because that's what the script is.